Welcome to a very special presentation here on the Parchive channel. I'm Tom Corliss. The reason we're releasing these videos to you now is this marks the 1-year anniversary of the closure of MuppetVision 3D at Disney's Hollywood Studios. If you're anything like me, it's been an emotional year missing this attraction, one of the greatest of all time and arguably one that never should have been removed. But 1 year ago, we had a tremendous honor to host several individuals from both the Jim Henson company side and the Walt Disney Company side who came together to create this indelible attraction. And what we're releasing today is all 4 of those presentations. So you're about to watch one of 4 presentations from that very special event that we called a glorious 3-day finale. And we hope you enjoy that. Now, if you enjoy these presentations, I want to let you know about a very big event and similar event we have coming up that's not focused on a single attraction, but a wide array of Disney attractions and parks all around the world. That event is called Way Back Wed, and it's happening October 2nd and 3rd at Disney's Contemporary Resort. This will be our largest ever gathering of Disney Imagineers and creatives from over the years. And we're going to talk about all sorts of topics from the Hall of Presidents, the American Adventure, Electrical Water Pageant, Main Street Electrical Parade, so many amazing topics. We have the women of Walt Disney Imagineering. We're going to be signing their book. Bob Weiss, former president of WDI. The list goes on and on and on. You can see all the names, in fact, at waybackwed.com. But tickets are running out fast, especially our VIP package, which is nearly sold out. So this might be the last chance you get to pick up those tickets. But again, October 2nd and 3rd at Disney's Contemporary Resort in the legendary Ballroom of the Americas. We're going to have this event, and registration is open now. Now, you do have to be a WIGS member to register. So to do that, you have to go to patreon.com/WDWNT. Now, the good news is we've introduced a free tier of the WIGS program, so it doesn't cost you anything extra to register for the event. Now, if you do want a discount on your event registration, you can join at a paid level, and as you rise through the paid levels, the discount does increase, so keep that in mind. So with that said, we hope you enjoy this visit back to a glorious 3-day finale and the closure of MuppetVision 3D, and we hope we'll see you at our next event. Enjoy the show. For our next panel, we're heading back over to Walt Disney Imagineering. For our friends Paul, Kathy, and Eric are back. And we also have Jim Mulder, who's been to several of our events as well, joining us. Now we're going to talk about, we talked about the ideas for the attraction and what would surround it. We talked about making the actual film. And now we have to talk about getting the physical attraction built and finished. Paul, that's quite a nod from Paul. He's like, yeah.
We're almost done.
Almost to dinner.
No, actually, I was reminded, first of all, you're asking us to remember something from 35 years ago. and when Heather spoke, it reminded us, oh yeah, we started with Rolf in the pre-show. And as soon as she said Rolf in the pre-show, all these nightmares came back. And I remembered one story. So the attraction had already been open, but we didn't have the pre-show yet. And I think we had been open maybe a week or two. And the concept for bubbles and water, even though it was like a loose concept, it was that most of the bubbles and water would actually leave the theater with the audience. They would land on the audience and it would go out, right? So back in the olden days when we programmed the animation and all the effects, it wasn't done with like a laptop and a software. It was partial software, but mostly the programmers would go back into the electronic control room and work with the show control unit, and they'd pull out a card and they'd move dip switches around, right? And they'd push a card back in and we'd look and the timing would be closer. Well, we're now programming the new pre-show, right? And because the park's been opened, we can't get in until like 10 o'clock at night. So we go 10 o'clock at night till 6 in the morning. So we're in the pre-show and we're looking at it and we're making sure the monitors come on, the audio comes on in the right space, and all the doors to the main theater are closed, and we're in there for a few hours. And so maybe 2 or 3 in the morning, someone opens the door to the main theater, and at some point when they pulled one of the cards out, they tripped the sprinklers and the bubbles. And so the water effect is actually like fire sprinklers, but they go on for like a tenth of a second, like that. And that is the entire effect. Well, now the water's been going on for hours. The bubbles have been coming down for hours. We opened up, and the park's gonna open in a few hours, right? So we open the doors, and you walk into theater, and the bubbles are up to about your knees. Because they had soaked into the carpet, they soaked into the seats, and all the water coming down agitated the bubbles, so it was like the snow had fallen in the theater. Let me tell you, that night you learned about the power of Walt Disney World, because we must have had an army of custodians in there within half an hour. And they had wet, dry vacuum, yeah. They had all these industrial fans and wet, dry vacs, and it was literally an army of everybody just wiping everything down. And we got the attraction open the next day. But it was like, oh my God, how does this happen? And it did. So that's kind of like those nightmare stories that you forget. I mean, at the time, it's like you're panicked because you're going like, well, we're all going to get fired, I suppose. And then later on, like a time like now, you think back, it's like, oh, I have a funny story. Anyway, so thank you, Heather, for reminding me of the Rolf pre-show and what we had to do to get the new pre-show put in.
So there was a fire sprinkler issue anyway, though.
Yeah, so we really want to talk about in-theater effects and how they came to be.
Sure,
Is that the...
I've had the privilege of working on every in-theater 3D movie where there are effects in the theater since Captain EO. And Muppets was probably the first one where the effects were more integrated as a story than Captain EO, for example, which was more environmental. So we had to get to know the story quite well to kind of understand and try and make work the things that had to happen in the theater to support the show. And I was traveling in Europe doing a little bit of work with some projection display technology. And then I came on board the Muppet Show, and we decided to see if we could adapt some of that, because the theater had to blow up at the end of the show. So I said, why don't we try to do some projections and some other effects, standard effects, to kind of make that happen. So if we can do this first little slide there. First plate on the...
short slideshow.
Oh. Okay, it's not happening, so...
The
there we go.
PowerPoint takes a moment sometimes.
Okay, if you take a look at the theater walls, this was part of the transformation. All the imagery you see on those walls, except for the actual sculptures of the pig, are projected. And it had to be integrated with the show lighting on the lower portion of the walls, and had to be bright enough to be visible during house lighting. So I chose to use a very powerful still film projector, 4 of them on each side. We can go ahead and take a look at the next one. I was looking and studying some techniques in Europe at the time, and there was some outdoor projection advertising and decorative things that were being done in Europe. So I said, okay, why can't we adapt this to architecture in the States, or interior projection, and then be ideal for doing transformations. So, okay, next one. So here's the theater with audience in there, and you can still see the images of the walls. And each pair of panels was one single projector. So a total of 4 per side. Next one. And this is another illustration of that. You see the back 2 were one panel, the next 2 are the next panel, and so on. And next one. This was the equipment that was used to do this. Now, the little piece of junk you see there on the left is actually a camera. In order to be accurate, to make sure that we were able to cover the architecture accurately, and I went on to use this in shows like Illuminations and such, we created an 11 by 14 camera that would accept the actual lens that the projector was going to use. And you'll note on the photo, the bottom part of the photos, you'll see the same undercarriage that allowed me to have the same adjustments on the camera as we did on the projector. So everything was lined up, and we would make a photograph on 11 by 14 film and use that as a guide. We enlarged it, traced it, made it large enough for the artist to work on, and then we'd go ahead and paint the interior wall finishes. We would do 2 slides. One would be a standard wall, and the other one would be the exploded wall or the destroyed wall. Next one. There you see the exploded wall. Now, these were kind of done pretty standard theatrical stuff. The wall actually, the projection surface was actually a gray shark's tooth scrim, which has kind of a shark's tooth weave to it. And it provided the right balance between a projection surface, and transparency. Behind the scrim was a kind of a light box with an internal surface of broken up walls and strobe lights and other lighting and things like that, plus some CO2 nozzles. And all this programmed in the proper sequence rendered the walls to explode. I think there's one more. Nope, that's it.
So this is, what's crazy here is projection mapping has become so ubiquitous in theme parks now, in attractions and nighttime shows and all of these things. That obviously does not exist here.
No, this was the first time in my knowledge it was ever done inside a space. I was working on illuminations at the same time or a similar time where we would employ the same techniques or similar techniques. And it kind of worked out that it became very, very commonplace over the years. I did one a long time ago in Tokyo for a show called Starlight Magic. Now, every time they build a castle, they allow for that facility infrastructure to allow for the projections on the buildings. So
it was interesting that those light boxes, that was like technology from 500 years ago, the shark's tooth scrim, to basically inventing a new technology, which is projection mapping. The other thing that I think gets lost now, because now it's all can be done with a video projection, right? You can just create a piece of art, you project it through a video projector.
This was 1991. There was no real applicable video projection equipment to deal with this.
And we couldn't take a piece and print it on a piece of film. The film would burn up. So we had to paint, not we, Marie Miller, artist, painted on glass.
It's important to know that this was all done by hand.
All those images are painted by hand, and they had to be all perfect, or as perfect as could be, so it looked like real dimensional architecture. And then she had to do doubles, right? Nice theater, exploded theater. And then the projectors had to be locked down because they're registered, right? You couldn't have any movement. So anytime a maintenance guy went up into the attic to clean or dust, we'd all like bite our fingernails, like don't touch the projectors because they'll get out of sequence, they'll get out of registration.
It was a little bit of a learning curve. I was a pretty good relationship with the projection people at that point. So.
Yeah. So that was the most difficult, I think, effect that we had to do.
And it posed a couple of scheduling challenges because we had to have most of the interior of the theater done earlier than it would have normally been. So.
And I think Marie did an exceptional job, and there were multiple trips down to Florida to confirm color matching and positioning.
In the end, it all fit into place and worked quite well.
And she did, all the different perspectives and stuff. I mean, it was all done by hand. I mean, modeling the photographs, but all the filigree was hand done. That wasn't in the shot. So she had to, understand perspective on each one of those positions.
Yeah. I think the one thing that you look at all the effects that we did, and there are a couple things that I think it had more time. We probably could have done better. One was the arrows popping out. You could hardly ever see them. And then we tried different things. Let's put a reflective material on them. Let's paint them with black light and see if we can get a black light on them. Because they were just in such an enormous space, and the arrows were, the Muppet-sized arrows, even though they're oversized a little bit. I think that was one of the effects that kind of got lost in everything. But I don't think with everything going on,
so much else going on.
Yeah, it didn't matter that much.
The arrows essentially are treated as an Easter egg at this point. Where you'll see people purposefully sit up front because they want to show their friend, like,
see, there really were arrows.
Yeah, there they are.
And I mentioned earlier the one thing that Jim asked for that we didn't deliver was the cannonball, actual physical cannonball. But we did get a really good audio effect, and I think the traveling audio really it reinforces that something has been shot out of the cannon.
And you were mentioning, Paul, the arrows being Muppet-sized, but like a little bit bigger. That takes me back to when we were doing the Muppet characters for the theater. We actually did a lot of mock-ups to see how big they needed to be. Statler and Waldorf and Bean Buddy in particular, to see, because we thought if they're really the size of the ones the puppeteers use, they're gonna look like this big, you'll never see them. So I can't remember what the percentage is, but maybe 30 or 40% bigger than they would have been, you know, as real puppets. So you could see them from the audience without them feeling like they were too big. So that was another challenge that we worked on for a while.
Yeah.
We're talking about the interior. Should we show the model?
Yeah, show the model.
We have a whole little folder for the model.
It's a model. So this is the exterior, as you can
Yeah.
guess. What is not shown, of course, is the rest of the Muppet Studios, which we did model, but you know, for this presentation, we took it out
Without the balloon.
without the
Yeah.
balloon
Yeah.
and without the water towers, and
The
so.
fountain, yeah.
Yeah, so this is the foam core model. This is typical of what we would do. We do a base sheet, that's the piece of paper at the bottom, and we start to elevate the walls. And then next is, there we go, it's the side view of it. You can see looking at different sizes of the balloons. So instead of making a dimensional balloon, we're just doing cutouts just to get a sense of, so this would be the first step. We'd get a sense of how the balloon should look. Then we'd go float a balloon, the earlier video that you saw, how big it should be. And then the third step was to create a dimensional model, which you could see out in the lobby. We created the dimensional model.
Next one, Katie.
So this is the interior of the theater that we had built. I worked on this. Again, we were looking at the size of the penguins. We were looking at the size of the orchestra pit. We were making sure that Sweetums had enough room to do his walk around. And then we get down with a miniature camera from almost like the four corners of the theater, and we move the camera around and make sure that we can see what we need to see, especially in a show like this where you don't want to split focus too much. I mean, you want to keep people watching the screen, but also you've got a big story element that happens behind you. So we wanted to make sure that if you're sitting up in the front, when you turn and look, that Bell and Yowl projection booth is big enough that you go like, oh, I get it now. And Swedish Chef is one of those and other things that the character had to be larger so that you could immediately catch him and see him. So this is the theater. I think we have another
We
shot
have
of the
another
theater.
angle up next, yeah.
And there's the back. So the actual projection room is not that big, obviously, but we made it bigger. We oversized it so you could really see what was going on.
Talking about the interior of the theater, the characters that inhabit said theater have been mentioned a lot. I wanted to have a special segment for my personal favorite, I think a lot of people's, which would be the Orchestra of Penguins. And so Paul was nice enough again to give us some documents. And so for the halibut, let's take a look. Let's take a look at our beloved Penguin Orchestra.
There they are. So a lot of those instruments were fabricated in our shop, Tahunga,
Yeah.
and some of them, like the saxophone, the clarinets, the trumpets, they're toys. I went to Hollywood Toy and Magic on Hollywood Boulevard and just bought toy instruments, and we painted them up and put them in the. You know, it took a long time. That I'm remembering it. It was getting the instruments to fit into the fins of
Yeah,
their
wings.
arms.
Yeah.
Because they want to look like they're holding them, but they don't have fingers, you know. So like, we had to figure that out. So there they are, and
That's
the
everyone laid out, and then
yeah.
we go a little dimension.
quick sketch.
Yeah.
Again,
then-
we would have mocked this up with cardboard penguins to make sure that wherever they weren't hiding, you know, they were spaced around. And of course, you know, we studied how orchestras are really set up because we wanted to be authentic. So how the
It's a good thing
violins-
your Orchestra of Penguins is authentic.
Yeah.
You don't want someone to come in and be like, that penguin wouldn't be there. I'm teasing, of course. But then we have, my personal favorite are their individual sketches of the penguins. So please, I mean, this brings so much joy. Eric, he also has a name. It's Eric the Gunner.
I've been called worse.
Next penguin. We have the violin penguin. Next penguin. The saxophone penguin. Next penguin.
He wouldn't have done this.
Here's Ben.
Oh, Eric swapped, yeah.
Ben is aiming the cannon, right?
Yep.
There you go. And then, so we got some sketches, but what about, we should look at the real thing a little bit, probably in a way you've never seen it before. Oh. We love at these events skinless animatronics. That's always been our thing, skinless or featherless in this case. I don't know which penguin, Paul, do you know which penguin this is?
It doesn't have a number on it, yeah.
Might be the conductor.
It's the
Maybe.
conductor. Yeah, I think it's the conductor, yeah.
Next penguin.
Eric.
Eric.
That's
yeah.
Eric.
That's Eric.
That's Eric.
That's
The
the
guy
Eric.
working on the characters, Eric.
Was Eric the Gunner named after him? Is that-
Probably.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, probably.
Eric was an Austrian fellow from Salzburg. I always used to bring him newspapers back.
Eric Gerber. He passed away just recently, I think.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Bring everybody down, Eric.
And then one.
And, then
And
really
we have
bad
one
tou-
more picture of Eric working on.
He had a really bad
the
toupee, I can say that now. That
Wow. He sadly
don't-
passed away recently. His toupee was terrible.
when you,
We
you
haven't
look-
even given them liquor yet.
when you look at this picture, can you disagree with me?
So that's obviously it looks like the violin penguin.
So you can see the difference between the orchestra leader and these guys, because their fins were literally very thin,
Yeah.
metal.
There you go. So that's it for the penguins, but we have some other interesting sketches I want to show real quick. The next one is going to be a sketch of 3D glasses, which you might be like, oh, that's what we, no, if you read it, it's for, you were figuring out what size the glasses had to be on Stadler and Waldorf, since
That's
we were
right.
going to have them.
Yeah.
Stadler's misspelled.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And then we'll move on to the Swedish Chef. We're in Florida, so of course the guy with the gun gets cheered. I mean, next. You can tell we're getting towards the end of the day now. The next slide.
So that's the actual projection booth. The two holes, the big squares in the middle are projection portals, and then the two little holes next to them are for the projectionists to go and make sure that the alignment happens. We don't. By the way, we don't call them projection rooms. We call them.
Film.
Magic space.
No, we call them film.
Film.
Film something, because projection means you have to have different kind of fire ratings and
Fire-
stuff.
yeah.
So we don't call them that. We call them something.
Yeah.
And we have another
Here it is.
shot of the
Yeah.
chef.
Yeah, these will be done for the animation engineering groups to like figure out how
Range of
far it has to
motion.
move, how much it has to tip over, and
Right.
all that
Range
kind of stuff.
Yeah, range of motion.
And then we're going to move on, lastly, in these sketches, to Bean Bunny.
Hey, buddy.
Bean. If we don't keep moving, they'll just do this for the next 3 hours. Next Bean Bunny sketch. It's gonna get an awe every time. Every time. And you know what's even cuter than just a bunny? A bunny who's blowing things up. Next slide. There you go. There you go.
These may be combined sketches between Michael Frith and our animators. I'm not sure
Yeah.
who.
Yeah.
That looks like, the piece before looked like Michael Frith.
Yeah.
This is definitely our animator. Yeah, that looks
Yeah.
like a Michael Frith,
Yeah.
who we've mentioned before, but he was Jim's creative director, Henson Associates creative director. And then the next one is probably our animators looking at what range of motion would be perceived by an audience of 1,000 people.
Rockets away.
Well, then you showed the sketch to the animation experts, and they say, okay, you want to go 8 inches or whatever
Yeah.
it was. Yeah, we can do that, but, or, no, we can only do 6 inches, or, you know, whatever. So it's a back and forth kind of tool.
Yeah.
There is a particular outdoor element of the attraction I feel we have to spend a few moments speaking about.
Uh-oh.
I think everyone loves this very, very much. That would be the Miss Piggy fountain.
So that's a sketch or painting by Jolene Cicero,
Yep.
who did the design for the fountain.
Little different from the finished product,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
Similar
lot
but
of it's-
different,
so
But
there's
the same
that.
spirit.
yes.
Paul is a treasure trove, man. So tell me that, so these are the maquette, is that the term for these?
Yeah,
Is
that's a
that right?
maquette, yep.
So they begin their sculpted life as a maquette.
Yeah, we want to make sure they're on model, and so they'll do like, this is probably 1 inch to a foot maquette, done in our model shop.
I think at some point there's a ruler. I think at some
Yeah,
point we get
it's
to.
you can see the white and black.
Yeah, I
ones
think
too.
we get a
Yeah.
number with that at some point in these. Next one, there's the back view of Piggy, the backside of Pig. And now she's very big. And this is the process. You see, each time she gets a little more detailed. The next one. There she gains shoes eventually, or sandals. And the next one, we'll take a look at whichever characters we
where
had
was that at?
photographs of. Here's Gonzo.
Doesn't look- Gone.
Yeah, a lot of these elements are missing now. It was really something. It's still great, but really something in the beginning.
In today's world, you take this smaller sculpture and scan it, and it would just be, you know, you have to, there's still human involvement, but it's blown up to the bigger size, you know, using a computer.
Yeah.
This, back in these days, the artist that was sculpting it would take the maquette and then sort of eyeball it and say, I'm gonna, you know, use it as and measure it with, you know, measuring tapes and rulers and stuff like that. So it was
Yeah.
much more of an old world craftsman kind of thing back then.
Keep going, Katie. There's the full-size
They
animal.
did that at the studio, huh? That's the studio.
Yes.
Some of the rats, yeah, the little rats.
He could have.
And the fish, I mean, love the fish.
Yeah.
It's Fozzie. We didn't have Fozzie in maquette form, but we got the full size.
It looks like the studio sculpting.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, this is the Disney Studios in Burbank.
That's what the fountain looks like today. A lot of those characters are missing. The
Yeah.
rats in the boat stayed, the fish and Piggy all stayed. I think we have a photo of what it looked like before. Maybe, maybe not. There is a video for sure. It may not be in that folder. Yeah, it's in the main directory, Katie, I'm sorry. It says waterfountain.mp4. And we'll get to see, there was a lot of motion to it. There was a lot going on.
Fozzie's going on.
And so we actually found a really good
Animals going
video on the internet of the fountain in full effect.
We'd wanted the boats to actually float. I mean, they were
Yeah.
tethered down, but at least
Yeah.
they were floating.
Floating.
And then as Animal turned the valve, she would go up, and then she would come back down.
It's really, really something.
And then I think she also spun, I don't remember.
Yeah,
Yeah.
uh-huh. Do we have that, Katie? Okay, go for it. I forget, it was like 10 years ago, somewhere in that zone. It was during Galaxy's Edge construction, they turned it temporarily into a planter because of, I guess they needed to hit the water main or something. And then it came back, Grand Avenue, for the Grand Avenue project, they made it what it is today. But I love that. I wonder, was it a conscious decision? Kermit's not in the fountain, is that because he's on the marquee and on the balloon? Was it
I would,
just too much Kermit?
I don't know that we had that discussion. Probably be oversaturated with
Yeah.
Kermit maybe. Like just same discussions we have with the Fab Five characters. Like, are we using Mickey too much? Are we using Donald too much? Like
Yeah.
nowadays would be Moana.
I always like that at the end of the day, Paul always gets one of those in. I always enjoy that. I want to talk about, there's a billboard that's no longer present. We have the art for the billboard. It was a Miss Piggy billboard. There's the art. All right, calm down. You might need to jump in the Miss Piggy fountain. And then we have the finished billboard that used to be up there, somewhere in there. No, it's just a press shot. That doesn't happen. They don't really. Nope. Somewhere in there, there's the. I do want to ask about that image. I think it's just a press shot, but
Yeah.
somewhere in here. It's www.billboard.webp. I don't know if you can find that.
There.
Yeah, and it's going to display weird, but you get the idea. That was the finished product.
I think Eric knows the story about why that's gone. Did you have the story to that? I heard.
I can tell
heard
that story.
It was good. Go ahead.
I do know that story. We had, because we were all a Muppet studio, so everything, we were on all sides Muppets. And at the time, we had the New York Street, which was in theory going to be a production location for filming. And when you were standing on the New York Street, Miss Piggy was very prominent in the shots, and the yellow building was prominent in the shots. So a decision was made to neutralize that side of the building so that there was an opportunity for backlot filming to be done without a lot of issue later down the road.
Real quick, I want to talk about the queue a little bit, specifically the extended queue, because I think for so many people, for fans, that's the two most dreaded words, extended queue. Those of you who have been in line for Bat Out the Ministry know. The extended queue is where you don't want to be. Muppets is one of those where people will go to the cast member and specifically say, hey, can I go down the extended queue to look at all of the detail in there? Katie, somewhere in a folder there is a Jim Lewis interview bit about a water system. I don't know if you can find that. I'm sorry. But yeah. So people like this. In the meantime, if you want to show, there's a folder called Q posters. If we could pull that up real quick. Just flash through these real quick. Some of these still exist. Some of them were replaced. In like 2009, 10, 11, they tried to update to some more modern movies that kids might know. This is one of the classic ones, Star Chores. Next poster. Moi, Jane. Instead of me, Tarzan. Next.
And these were, they're amazing, and they were great fun to I didn't come up with any of them, but the ideas were really great. But it was really interesting getting the legal clearances. Even though they were parodies, we still had to get all the attorneys involved and saying, who are we going to make angry if we put this up, basically.
What actress that you made Miss Piggy is going
I think
to...
I think we got all of them approved eventually, but it was just, one of those bureaucracy things.
The next poster. You just keep running through these, Katie. The Pig-Sidon Adventure. It's my favorite. But you could see why by 2010 maybe it was time to update a couple of these.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great one too.
I think this is what was so fun about working with the Muppets and is because they have such a irreverent, humor to them that it was always fun to find those opportunities for Muppetizing the space.
Yep.
And a lot of these, the photographs were done by the Henson like a few years before. They appeared at, I think there was a Muppet magazine or Muppet, some kind of publication where they did these. And then we had the raw photographs taken and then did the overlay, reformatted it and put the jokes on top.
This is great because a lot of these have been gone for 15 years, so I know a lot of folks are going to introduce to these today. A couple more. And yeah, the detail, you hear it in the crowd. There's an initial laugh and then a second because there's layers to all of these jokes. I think we got two more. So mean he's green. Oh man. Do we miss him?
What's that? The Henson group had done these a few years before for their own publication.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yep.
Yeah,
Who's-
they would make it.
Whose responsibility was Jim Lewis involved in this? Who would have
Oh,
been?
yeah, more than likely
Okay.
Jim Lewis, yeah.
Okay, great.
Some of them are from calendars.
Yeah, oh, that's,
Yeah,
it, yeah.
Fred said some are from calendars.
Muppet Magazine.
That's what,
Yeah.
Okay,
I recall there was a lot had already been done in previous year.
but existing imagery, yeah.
Yeah, let's use these.
Use what you got. Do we happen to have that Jim Lewis video, Katie? What's the what titles do you have? Muppet Pipe. Just, you could run the unedited one, it's okay. We're all friends here, it's all right. It's just gonna be missing a fancy lower third, it's okay.
Yeah, I did remember we did an homage to the NBC pipes, which were the pipes that Jim and Frank and Jerry painted and Don Celine painted at NBC when they were doing the Today Show back in the 60s. Yeah, that they painted those, and they've actually restored them since then and did a dedication. But we took the backflow preventer on in the queue. As you went there was this fenced-in area, but there was like a couple of little knot holes which we built in, so that you could look through and just basically see this practical piece of plumbing that we turned into a Muppet, and that was always one of my favorite aspects of that. My other favorite was when they did the Miss Piggy statue, the fountain outside. And they did the dedication. Frank did the voice, but they did it with one of the few times I think that the Miss Piggy walk around was delivering the speech. And and I'm gonna again give Michael Frith credit for this line, although it's one of my favorites. And the fact that I was standing next to Jeffrey Katzenberg when they were doing this. And so the line was, Miss Piggy said, I want to thank everybody at Disney for this, and this beautiful statue is chiseled from the finest marble in the world, and I'd like to thank all the chiselers who made it possible. And that just kind of always, it felt like a little bit of Muppet kind of, tweak, which really... That was Jim. That was them. They were entertaining themselves and kind of, having a little fun. It's like in the video where, Rizzo comes out as Mickey Mouse in the pre-show. It's just like, can you do that? Yeah, you can. And that was my favorite part of it, was kind of expanding what they were able to do, which has obviously grown in the years since then. And also getting to do things on a scale that, our little Muppet, the Jim Henson Company, Henson Associates, as it was known when I joined it, was incapable of, pulling off. So it was great. That's it.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. A little taste of that extended queue detail. Not all of it's still there, but I'm sure tomorrow we'll be seeing a lot of it. That takes us to opening day. Katie, I have, I think, 2 images of the grand opening. But on the way to the grand opening, obviously there are some hurdles. It's been mentioned several times today already. There was, for those that don't know, it was expected that Disney would absorb Henson, and that was the expectation. Jim passed away, things happened, and there was some doubt as to whether or not MuppetVision would ever be seen.
Yes.
So can you guys tell us a little bit about the feelings, the emotions of that moment in time?
Well, I think it wasn't until the end of the year, like December, when we got the word that we needed to stop and hold. We did have a decision that said that we could continue with what we had in front of us, but like the pre-show, the extended queue, we stopped working on that. And we knew that they were in negotiations to complete some part of the contract. And I think it was February when Frank Wells and the team of lawyers came down because they were going to go to New York to continue the negotiations. And
Michael sat us down in the theater one day
yeah,
and talked about we may not be able to open the show.
yeah.
Remember that?
So they came in and basically said, you may not ever open the show. So, but Frank said, I want to see this. I want to see what I'm negotiating for. And I think after the show was completed, he said, we're going to do this, which was, you know, a moment that we all finally went, okay, great. But the negotiations still had to complete, and at I think we had a month from the time that we got the word that, yes, the contract will be signed, that we're going to do this, that we had to finish all the Muppetizing for the pre-show, and that's why we were recording the pre-show in May, and we were going to open in May. And we had Michael Frith and Jim Lewis come down, and we had a little war room up in the pizza restaurant.
Where the tap dancers, so to speak.
Yeah, we had graphic designers, we had production designers, we had painters. We were literally putting out drawings and sketches for people to go out and complete the scope at the time, and we did it.
Yeah, but it was like there's the Imagineering team, the Henson team, and everybody on the ground that was working, you know, was just doing what they needed to do. And it was like mom and dad came in and said, you kids, go to the room, watch TV for a couple hours, and we'll come back and tell you what we're gonna do after we're done talking. It was like
Yes.
that kind of thing. And then mom and dad finally came back and said, guess what, we're gonna do this, we figured it out. So it did have a happy ending, and we weren't privy to all the conversations that happened, and it was very complicated, but we're glad that it turned out the way it did, and it worked out.
It's a very happy ending. It's the reason we're here today. Yeah. So we're gonna regroup for just a moment, and then we are gonna bring all of our panelists back up and sum this all up and leave on a very emotional note, I'm sure. So bear with us for just a moment. So we can get to our dinner break, we're gonna just bring everyone up and make this happen. So bear with us for one moment.